Hello all, good morning. Welcome to the free OpManager training series. Hope you have no hassle in hearing and viewing this presentation. If any, please do let us know through the webinar chat panel. We can check on a couple of responses and then move further. If you cannot hear my voice or cannot view this presentation, please do let us know on this chat panel. Thank you. We have now received a couple of confirmations that you can hear and view the presentation. Let me introduce about myself, Sharath, product expert associated with ManageEngine's OpManager for more than 5 years now. For the next 45 minutes of time, I would try my best to engage with you and let you know a couple of things about OpManager's Discovery today. So as you all know, this is a 4-part training series and this is the first season of this year 2020. So today, 21st of January, we would check about discovery and classification. The upcoming week on the next Tuesday, we have got monitoring on servers performance metrics. And followed by then on 4th February, we have got network performance metrics and maps. And the last part of this series is on 11th of February, which covers up on fault management and IT automation. For the better beneficial of the larger audience throughout the globe, we have this particular training happening at 2 time zones. One is at 6 a.m. GMT and the other one is now 11 a.m. EST. To find more details about the agenda and the recorded version of these webinars, you can very well visit this particular link below and you would be able to find the recorded versions of the previous webinars as well. We also have a team of panelists to answer all your questions throughout the course of this webinar. In case if you've got any questions while we discuss, you can just put it down in the webinar chat panel and our team would respond to you right then. So the first part, I'm very happy to welcome you all in to the part discovery and classification. Let's have a quick look at the agenda for today. First, let's check what are the prerequisites for installing OpManager. What are the discovery methodologies we have got? How do we discover virtualization and storage discovery? Important steps to simplify these discovery processes. And we'll talk about how to group devices and a couple of tips and tricks which will definitely help you to make your device discovery hassle-free. Let's begin the season 1, part 1 now. Let's talk with an example for better understanding. Let's take a banking network infrastructure. A network infrastructure would commonly look like this. Get the internet, connected to a router, access points, and there are multiple devices connected in the infrastructure. The infrastructure would definitely have firewalls, couple of switches, routers, workstations, printers, servers, etc. So normally an infrastructure looks like this. So banking infrastructure have purchased OpManager and they would like to discover the critical devices and they wanted to configure a particular set of monitors, services or processes. And at the same time, they do not want to monitor their workstations or laptops in the entire network when they do scan for the discovery. This is what a basic requirement whenever a network infrastructure buy OpManager for its monitoring. Let's talk how this can be achieved. So if a product has been purchased, you've got to make sure you should be ready with a couple of information to get that installed successfully. Either a physical server or a virtual server for the installation of OpManager. PGSQL or MS SQL, both the databases are supported where PGSQL comes in built with the product itself. We bundle that for free. Hard disk of minimum 20 GB of space, a RAM of 4 GB with 4 core processors is required. And we do support both in the Windows and Linux platforms for installation, wherein when you do installation on the Linux platform, the only limitation you might find is you may not be able to monitor the Windows servers using the WMI protocol, but still then you can monitor with the SNMP protocol. So once this particular infrastructure is ready for the installation, and this system requirements are given for 250 devices of monitoring approximately. For more number of devices, in case if you purchase and wanted to monitor, we've got a different set of system requirements. First, once you're ready with the installation and the system requirements, the first and foremost thing you've got to be ready with is collect the list of the devices and its respective credentials to be monitored. OpManager being a agentless monitoring solution, we need the credentials to communicate with the devices to get the data, the performance metrics from the devices. So first, let's, as an administrator, collect the data of what are the important devices to be monitored. Let's say I've got a list of the devices from my banking infrastructure. There are routers, switches, firewalls, couple of printers, servers, etc. I get the list of devices, and let's create a credential library. So then those kind of devices which would be discovered would be communicated fine. So we do support credentials such as SNMP v1, v2, SNMP v3, Telnet and SSH, Windows, WMI, VMware, a dedicated credential type to discover the virtual environment, Citrix, and also we have Nutanix and a couple of other credentials which would support it. So you can just very well get to the product after installation, click on settings, discovery credentials, and then here you've got an opportunity to create any type of credentials you want. Make sure you create the credentials at first after you get the list of devices. So I have got a couple of credentials ready for you already. So I've got a couple of credentials and the credential library is ready for the discovery. So once this is ready, the next important step is to move on to the user management. Absolutely, you must understand the importance of the users. Who are all the administrators in this particular banking infrastructure, and who are all the operators? So create account separately for the administrators and operators of the organization. And in case if you wish, you can also synchronize your Active Directory. So then any of your employees from the Active Directory can log into the OpManager as a user and can have access to this particular monitoring solution. Also, you can go ahead and restrict the access of the devices for the specific users based on the modules or business views as well. So let's take for an infrastructure, commonly 3 or 4 administrators of different departments. Say a network is taken care by 2 administrators, servers would be from another administrators, firewall would be from a different administrator. So you can create accounts for these administrators, so then that would be helpful in case in future for an audit purpose of understanding who have added the devices. You can just exactly find which administrator added the device at what time. So this user management would definitely be helpful to understand when and what has happened during the discovery. So to get into the user management, you can create a user. You can just specify the role for the particular user, either an administrator or operator. Name the particular user. Let's name him Paul, and you can just create a password for this particular user and provide an email, so that in case if the password has been forget, then you can just go ahead and then get the reset password link in this particular email. So once this is ready, then you have the opportunity to provide the scope for this particular user. Either you want to provide all the devices or a selected group of devices where you've already created a business group. So you wanted to create only the branch 1 servers. So this Paul is responsible for branch 1. So you can just give access to only branch 1. So Paul cannot see any other devices, only the devices from branch 1. So likewise, you can just make sure you can go ahead and then very well create a user of that case. And I would just add a tip in this scenario as well. You can have your own password policy for those credentials of the local users. You can create your own password policy of how complexity the password has to be, how much characters has the password must have, or any of the other information can also be set. And this is for the local users. You can create your own password policy. So once your user management is ready, then we dive deep into the discovery part once this is all ready. So we do have two methodologies in discovery. One is automatic discovery. This is something which is really new. One of the recent builds have got this automatic discovery methodology. So whenever a product has been installed, the OpManager is installed on the 64-bit version. Immediately, it scans the local subnet of the connected network, and it scans the entire network using the Nmap, and we try to fetch the device details through Nmap and get them added automatically. Also, we get in touch with the Active Directory and add all the servers which is connected to the Active Directory. By then, automatically we get the devices and put them into the discovery. Another method is manual discovery, where we have got different types of options of the discovery. We have got CSV import, or provide a range of an IP, or CIDR, and we have got other couple of methods as well. Let's talk in detail about the manual discovery method. And I would wanted to tell you how ManageEngine's OpManager as a network monitoring solution is so better in the discovery process. We've got a couple of interesting features where you can create profiles and get reports out of it. We do have discovery filters in them. You can create rule engines, and we've got dedicated discovery for the interfaces. And even you can just go ahead and then update the properties of the existing devices from the profile created itself. So we would just have a look of these one by one from now on. Let's talk about the discovery profile. We do have a wide range of discovery options. IP range can be selected, and multiple ranges can also be added in the discovery part. And in case, as we saw about this banking infrastructure, they do not want to monitor their laptops or the workstations, because as an administrator, they wanted to have a close look on the performance metrics of servers, network devices. They do not really wanted to worry about laptops or workstations, because that also be counted as a license. So to use a better methodology of the license, workstations can definitely be eliminated. So let's see, how do we create a profile? How do we initiate a discovery profile? Getting into settings discovery, this is how the different input methods you have for discovery. You can add a name or the IP of the individual device, or provide a range of the device, or in case if you've got already an NMS tool in your infrastructure and you're just moving to OpManager, where you've got an opportunity to export the CSV of the device details, you can just very well import them with a small format we have. You can just download the sample file, have a look at how it is, and import the exact format. For this case, let's go with an example. 192.168, say 50.1 till, say I wanted to discover 100 devices. So this is a range we have provided right now. In this particular range, my request is to ignore the desktops. So clicking on this filter would just ease your process. Just select ignore devices, provide the category equals desktop. So then no desktops will be added from this particular range. You've got an ignore option. Here is how the filter plays much more important role to make your job easier. In case if you do not have a filter, think about it. All these 100 devices would be added, including desktops. Later, you've got to get into the inventory of the OpManager, delete the unwanted desktops. That's quite a tedious job. This filter would definitely save you time. Moving on to the next step is on credentials. This is the library which you've already created as a first step. So select the credentials whichever is applicable, where we allow you to select multiple credentials. In the range of 100 devices, in case you wanted to have multiple credentials selected, select them, and you can just move on to the next step on the discovery profile. So the next step is on discovery rule engine. Normally, I would just little be proud and be happy to talk about this particular feature called discovery rule engine. Let me tell you why this particular rule engine would be more helpful in the time of discovery, because in this banking scenario which we were talking about, you have multiple metrics to be added on those devices. So let's see with an example. Say once the device has been discovered, and if that seems to be Windows 2012 R2 server, which starts with an IP address of 192.168.1. And on those kind of devices, this banking infrastructure would like to monitor a URL, which is their login URL. This is very important URL for them to log in at every day when they check into the office. So this is one quite important URL. They wanted to monitor these URLs for all these devices. And they might have another requirement: associate a notification profile automatically for a device whenever that goes down, and that has to be emailed to the admin named Paul. And they wanted to also group those servers in this particular range under a servers category called branch 1 servers. They also wanted to associate a Windows event log service which runs on all these servers. So they wanted to capture the event logs. They wanted to have a look of whether the service is running or not. So you might be a little bit wondered, there are multiple actions, multiple tasks which has to be taken care. In case if you do not have a profile or a rule engine, think about how much time you would normally spend after adding the device. You've got to get into each and every device and add all these metrics like URL, notification profile, grouping them, and getting the service monitors. Rather, if that is available at one place, that would really be beneficiary, and that is what the Discovery Rule Engine is. The rule engine, you can add a rule engine at any point of time during the discovery process. Let's name that as servers of this banking infrastructure. And this is completely based on the criteria and the respective action model. I select the criteria and I say if the category or if the type equals Windows 2012 R2, Windows 2012 R2, and if the range of the IP address starts with anything as 192.168.1 dot, and then I wanted to do all these actions which we were talking about. I wanted to go ahead and associate a Windows monitor, the event log monitor. I wanted to associate a notification profile to this devices whenever device goes down. So I just get into the servers down, and I wanted to monitor URL, which is their login URL, which is a new URL template where you can just add a new template right from here and then start monitoring them. And they also wanted to go ahead and then add them to a business group called branch 1 servers. So all these tasks can be accomplished right during the discovery itself. It is not about the post discovery. While discovering the devices itself, you can just request OpManager to do these tasks for those set of devices, and this would definitely save much of your time as well. The next part on the discovery process is about interface discovery. So here we give the option to choose whether you wanted to have the interface being discovered. So you have to enable the interface discovery at the beginning. By default, the interface discovery would be disabled. So you enable the interface discovery and then choose whether the administratively and operationally up device interfaces has to be discovered, or is that all the interfaces has to be discovered. Meaning only the active interfaces you really wish to monitor. Make sure you select the administration and the operational status as up. So only those active interfaces would be discovered. Also, you can select the type of the interface. What are the type of the interfaces needs to be discovered and you would like to monitor. You can select on those as well. So that is going to be the next step. So you have the interface discovery. Enable the interface discovery and select only the active interfaces in case. So I do not want any of my down or testing interfaces. I just wanted to make sure the active interfaces, the Ethernet active interfaces in this particular range of these 100 devices has to be monitored. Just very well select that. This is like, which helps you to exactly monitor the required interfaces. And the next is about scheduling these discovery profiles and getting the reports out of it. So schedule the profile to get an updated inventory. In case out of the 100 devices which you've given as a range, there might be a couple of IP addresses which is free, maybe like 20 of the IP addresses which has not been assigned to any devices. Maybe in future, like 2 or 3 weeks later, you might have new devices being purchased. As your company grows, the number of the devices grows. So you get the number of devices, get a new IP address assigned if that is in the range. Whenever you schedule the discovery, those new IP addresses would also be fetched again and then added to the inventory. So you do not really want to worry about whenever a new device has been purchased in your organization. You do not want to really get a task assigned to an administrator to add that into the Op Manager for monitoring. You can automate that also using scheduling the discovery. And this would help you to get the details of when, what, and who have added these devices. This is the place where I was talking about the importance of the user management. And you can get the best out of the inventory and audit reports, which would help you on these discovery processes. So once you have selected on the interface discovery process, here is a place where you can just go ahead and schedule the discovery. You can name it banking banking branch 1, and you wanted to go ahead and then schedule then every month on 1st of every month at 10 o'clock in the morning. So it would just scan the entire range of IP addresses given, and if any of the new is being found, a new device is found, you can just make sure you add and start monitoring. You would just go ahead and add and it starts monitoring for you. And here is where you can get the reports in case if you want it to be on the email. I want that to be sent to my Paul as an administrator. So you would be getting the network discovery report once every month at the first of every month. Review that at once if everything seems to be correct and save this profile, and that's very good to go that your discovery profile is created. Now we check about the discovery reports we have got. You can just get into the reports, and here it would let you know about when was the last run of that particular report. It seems to be a monthly report, so you would be finding every month and source which user have added this particular report, either an administrator or is that Paul or is that John who have added these devices, and it would also let you know about how many devices have been added. Talk about the audit reports and inventory reports. So once your discovery is all set, so you have created a profile, you've scheduled it, all good to go. So once the devices are in to the Op Manager, you can just very well check on how the devices, how many devices have been added in what type of ranges. So you wanted to get the devices by discovery. We give you a clear inventory report on how many desktops, how many routers, server switches, and then a couple of other inventory reports as well. You want to understand only on servers. You get to know what are the servers and what are the type of the servers you've got. So you can get a clear inventory report. When I talk about the audit reports, you can very well get auditing report on how many devices have been added. So you see a profile is successfully added. In case if a device has been deleted, you get to understand when that is being deleted. You also have a filter based on that where you can just select only on the discovery module. So anything which is on the discovery module, any auditing traces, you can get that from here on this report called audit report. So the next is about updating the properties of the devices. So now the banking infrastructure has a range of 1 to 100, and that has been added. It is already been scheduled. Now, maybe after 2 or 3 months of time, you have some properties needs to be updated on the device. Every time whenever a new infrastructure has been added, all the resources would be highly engaged. But later, after 2 or 3 months usage, if you wish to change the RAM or the hard disk size, or in case if there is a change in the IP address of the device, is that required? You've got to manually go ahead and change this tool for monitoring? Absolutely not, because this helps you to update the process. The same way, if you have got any changes in the interface properties like speed, maybe at one time, at the time of the usage, you might have 1 Mbps link. Later, it could have been upgraded to 50 Mbps. So if that has to be updated, that can be done automatically with the help of an existing profile, where you can create another profile for existing devices. So once all the devices have been discovered, you can just select all the devices and then create the same kind of profile. So you can schedule this existing devices profile for like every month or every year or every day. So that any properties as such we spoken right here is changed, that would be automatically updated on the device itself. And then so then you get the data correct. So this is how you can also update the properties of these devices. So now let's move on to virtualization and storage discovery. So the next part on the discovery process. So when I talk about virtualization, we do have a dedicated discovery process for the virtualization network, which supports VMware, Hyper-V, Zen, and the latest Nutanix infrastructure as well. We do have options where you can just discover only the vCenter in the virtual part, and the other entities such as the hosts and the respective VMs would automatically be fetched. We also do support vCenter and ESX host-based discovery, because a couple of users which I come across have only ESX hosts. They might not have the vCenter methodology. So even we do support both of these discovery methods. So as mentioned, you've got a dedicated discovery method for that, virtualization discovery. In case you have a VMware, get into the Discover vCenter or Discover ESX. You have a dedicated credential, a VMware credential. Get into that, and then you would be able to have the discovery of your vCenter, Hyper-V, or your Zen infrastructure. So we do have a virtualization where once you have your vCenter being discovered, you would have a clear picture on how the discovery would be. What are the virtual details? How many data centers are on that particular vCenter? Number of clusters, number of hosts, and what are the virtual machines inside those hosts? All these details would automatically be fetched. Talking about storage discovery, storage, we do support RAID tape library, FC switches from various vendors like Dell, HP, Huawei, etc. And we do support these discovery based on SNMP, CLI, SMI, and the API credentials of those respective storage devices. Storage devices also have a dedicated discovery method. Add a storage device, either RAID tape library or switch, and then we have got these credentials which are supported. The NetApp, that is through API, SMI, CLI, and more. Once you provide the device model, check on the device model, and then provide the respective IP address and just hit on OK. The storage devices would not be discovered. So a storage, once been discovered, I've got an EMC device discovered through the CLI. Once discovered, I can just get to see the disk, the LUN, the storage information, and the respective monitors for the storage. It's automatically done for you once you've got provided the IP address of the storage device. The next is about the Nutanix Discovery. And if any one of the users who have joined here for today's webinar, they're an old users, you might be a little bit astonished about this feature which we are talking about, because this is something which we have brought into the latest versions of OpManager. Nutanix we started supporting. We do discover only the cluster of the Nutanix, and then all the entities like VMs, the respective storage, and the host details would be fetched. You can also configure the infrastructure diagram on how this Nutanix is being spread across your infrastructure. What is the host connected to the cluster? What are the VMs connected to the host? What are all those storage devices, connected containers? You can just view that by the infrastructure diagram, which would be automatically drawn once the Nutanix has been discovered. We do also have the dedicated reports for these Nutanix, and we use the Prism API as a framework to get these discovery of the Nutanix HCI infrastructure. So as you will be a little bit familiarized right now on these page, discovery, add Nutanix, and this is again a dedicated one for these Nutanix. Get the Nutanix credentials ready, the username, password, and the protocol which that is being used with the port number, and you get the Nutanix credential selected, provide the range of an IP, meaning the IP address, and then once you discover, it gives you the list of the devices under the virtualization tab. You've got Nutanix. So once the cluster is being discovered, you get to understand how the Nutanix infrastructure is spread across. There are 3 hosts, 18 virtual machines, 12 disks, 6 storage containers. This is how it looks. So Nutanix discovery is made so simple. Using the Prism API, we do this. And when I was talking about the infrastructure map, we automatically get to draw. Under the maps, you've got Nutanix, where we create a clear map on the number of hosts connected or the number of VMs connected. So we've got a simulated map right here for you for a better understanding on how it looks. So this map is automatically drawn once the Nutanix is being successfully discovered. So the next is about layer 2 discovery. So the layer 2 discovery is on the network part. So discover the entire network with the help of the seed or the core router. So in case you are not very sure about what are the IP addresses to be added, you do not have a set of IP addresses. Let's say for an example, this banking infrastructure is just expanding their branch to the branch 2, and they do not have much information about the newly constructed branch 2. They've got a couple of devices being installed, but they do not have the exact IP addresses, but they do have obviously a core router. So only with the help of the core router, we would definitely be able to bring in the entire network infrastructure and its devices. So you can also have the device dependencies set automatically while you create the layer 2 network map. And this is absolutely schedulable, where you have a separate interval for this, and you can just configure them to make sure any new devices coming into the infrastructure can be updated automatically, and that can be discovered. So in this latest versions of OpManager, you can just very well go ahead and then export this map into Visio. In case if you've got a Microsoft Visio, the link below would help you to understand how to export Visio and what are the prerequisites on exporting to Visio. Let me take you directly to maps section and show you how the layer 2 discovery or the network discovery works. So once you wanted to create a layer 2 map, just name the map. So let's say branch 2, a new branch. And here is a place where you provide the router's IP address, the core router's IP address. And once the core router's IP address is ready, you provide the range of an IP address for which you wanted to discover the devices. I want to discover these set of devices. You can even have multiple ranges being added. Select the respective SNMP credentials which is applicable on these range of devices. And the mechanism we use for this discovery is Cisco Discovery Protocol, LLDP, route, FTP, and R. And this is what I was talking about, the schedule interval. So by default, it is set for 5. In case you wanted to rediscover the map, the layer 2 discovery for every 2 days, and then fetch new devices automatically and create a network diagram for you, you can just change the schedule interval. And setting an uplink dependency would be in case you've got a switch and there are like 5 devices connected to it. So for those 5 devices, the switch is being a parent device. So the 5 devices are depend on the switch. So that would automatically be created, and you would be able to fetch perfect details on that. So let me show you an example on how the device which is discovered from the layer 2 would look like. So here is how it is, and you can just click on settings and import devices. Select the devices of this from this diagram. So then what are the devices needs to be discovered for monitoring? You can select those devices, and that can be discovered, and it gets directly to the inventory part for monitoring. So I would now talk about what are the devices we support. So now we saw how do we discover the devices, either what kind of device it is. We saw about how do we discover the virtualization, storage, Nutanix Discovery. Let's see what are the devices supported. Any devices which has an IP address, irrespective of the vendor or irrespective of the model, we do really support the devices which supports any of the protocols such as SNMP, Telnet, SSH, or WMI is supported on the device which has an IP address. We are ready to support them, the performance metrics. We do have these categorization and supporting of these devices with the help of device templates. As of now, we have 10,000 plus device templates which would be categorized on the devices instantly post discovery. So we categorize, this is how the device model is, and what are the critical metrics needed, we automatically push them for those devices. And in case you do not have a proper template, if you wish, a quick creation is absolutely possible on a device template, and you can just add them. Getting back to where the device templates are, it's under the configuration. You can just have a look at how many device templates we've got. Almost all the devices, which is like most commonly used in the market, is absolutely available. We've got closely about 10,000 as set. So here is how it looks like. So adding a template is again simple. Just add template, provide a couple of information, and you're good to go with a new template. In case if you do not find your devices matching out on this 10,000. The next is about inventory. So now, so far, we have seen the important and interesting steps on discovering the devices in OpManager. Let's see how the devices would look like once it is being discovered successfully. Here is how your devices would look like under the inventory. You have all these list of devices being discovered. You have sort by severity based on the criticality of the device. You can just have a look at it, or you can just sort them based on the category, the type of the devices, based on the vendor, or in case you wanted to understand how many devices are supported on SNMP, how many of them are with WMI protocol, you can just even get them sorted with the help of protocol. So this is where you would have a detailed picture of what are the devices. Whenever you get into a device, you also get a clear picture on how the device details are being displayed as the system description or a couple of other details about availability. So these are some of these things which will be looking on the next part of the training. So next is about grouping those devices. All right, so all the devices have now been successfully brought into the inventory of OpManager. So in case if you wanted to group them for your easy usage, you can group them very well, where you can just group them based on your site or department, or based on the administrators, you wanted to group them, you can just group those devices. And the grouping is most beneficial in case if you wanted to push configurations to a complete group, like you wanted to set a device downtime. For those groups, you can just go ahead and then push the configuration to one group at the same time. Irrespective of vendor or type of devices, you can just mix and match and then group devices. And then you can just push configurations, or in case you wanted to group set a thresholds for the complete group, even that is also quite possible. So grouping is again simple. Just get into inventory groups, add a group, name the group like branch 1, flow 1. So I just wanted to group the devices on the flow 1, so to understand how my devices are performing from the first flow in case if the branches of 3 or 4 floors per building. So moving on to next, select the devices what are on the first floor. Let's say I've got like a couple of devices from the first floor. There is a place where you would just decide which device on these list of devices seems to be a parent device, or the device which you wanted to set the status of the group itself. So this device seems to be my main device. If this goes down, the entire group seems to be down is what I want to understand. You can just set this as parent, and that is ready. So branch 1 flow 1 is ready. So you would just see how the group is performing. So at this time, how the status of these devices, whether that's up or down, what are the list of the devices, the alarms of those devices can be captured. So in case if you wanted to push configurations or set a threshold for the entire group, yes, you've got quick configuration wizard where you can just get into the threshold. Say you wanted to go with the partition details of those 10 servers on the floor 1. You can just filter by groups like branch 1 flow 1, push them and set the same threshold for the entire partition details of the group. So likewise, these groups would be like most beneficiary, and you can just get the reports out of them as well. Now I just wanted to add some value to this as well as a tip which would definitely be helpful for you. I would like all the users who have been right now on the webinar would like to check on the status of those credentials associated to the devices very often to make sure you do not lose any data, or you just do not want to make the data collection stops. So this I would recommend it, because if the credentials on this devices seems to be wrong, or if it's not seems to be correct or appropriate, obviously the communication from the op manager to those devices would not happen, and thus the data would not be collected as well. So make sure you create this often, get this sorted, and that's quite easy as well. So getting into settings, test credentials, you can create your own profile. I would say you can just create it for all the devices at once. Select all devices. This would help you to test the credentials. You can even schedule that like every week, Friday, maybe like evening 5 o'clock. Schedule it, name it, and if you want to get the report as an email, provide an email. And if that seems to be any of those have failed, you want to generate an alarm, you can even just go ahead and do that. So once you're ready with that, you would have a clear status of how the devices and its credentials associated are. So you can see how many devices are passed, how many of them are skipped, because why? Because of the device seems to be down. If you have anything failed, you would understand these credentials are failed. So in case if the credential seems to be failed by any case, make sure you observe that device, check why the credentials have been failed. Is that because of the typo in the credentials, or is that really the credentials have been changed now for those devices? Anything could have been a reason. So make sure all the credentials associated with the devices are passed, so then the data collection is perfect. So now, again, another value added point right here for this. How do I fix devices getting discovered as unknown? So many of the users right now would have already started with the discovery maybe earlier if the product has been bought. And if they found a category as unknown, how do you get and fix it? Let me just show you how the device would look like when it seems to be unknown. So normally the device would be exactly categorized as what type it is. Here you see it's Windows 2012 R2 as a categorized as server. So likewise, you would normally get categorized. There are few scenarios where it would not be categorized. It would fall into an unknown category, unknown type, or unknown vendor. So you do not get the exact details from the device is what it means. So how do you fix this? There are a couple of reasons for this. Either it could have been, the first reason could have been the firewall on the port which has to be opened. There are a couple of ports in the firewall has to be opened for the communication from the OpManager installed server to the device monitor. So make sure you have a look at this link and check on whether those ports in the firewall are open. The next is about the password, the credentials which we're talking about. So you've got to make sure the password has to be up to date, because at today, at the time of discovery, the WMI credential for the device would be something. As per your organization, password policy would be like for 60 days or 90 days, you want to mandatorily change the password. If that's the case, make sure that is also be changed right here on the respective credentials. So only then those new credentials would be updated and then communicated for the device and fall then into the correct category. So here, that's what we were talking about. Test the credentials periodically and see when the test is being failed. So when I mentioned that you wanted to change the password, you can just get back to the credential library, click on the respective credential, and then change that with a new password. Save them. The next could have been because of the device template, because this is a rare scenario again, but then I just wanted to give you all the options. So if in case your device model seems to be quite very new to the market, where we do not have the device template, in which the 10,000 device templates, if you do not have them, you can create your own device template and then get that monitor. So then it would be categorized exactly as what type and what vendor, what model it is. So in case if you do not find anything in this which doesn't match, add a new template. Let's say there is a new device which has been released, just called like say 6, I'm not very sure about the new one, 6,000 something, and the vendor is Cisco. So you can create your own template, provide the vendor name, what category is that a router, select them as router, and here comes the important part for the classification. Device identifier. Device identifier is nothing but the unique series of unique number, which would help our manager to identify that this particular model belongs to this particular vendor, this particular category. And we do identify that with the help of the device identifier. You can very well go ahead and then query the device right from here itself. Those unknown devices selected right from here with the respective SNMP credential, you can query, and automatically the sys object ID, the device identifier, would be popped in. You can select that and save that for the device template. Or in case if you know that from your the vendor's documents, or you know that from any of the search engines, you can just very well type it. It would approximately look like this. So any of these kind of numbers would be a device identifier. So query them, add it and save that. And then when a discovery runs again, so this would be matched and we would just exactly match what type of device it is. So no device would be falling into an unknown state. So by this, we have come to the end of the discovery and classification. Hope I've give some valuable information on how to make your discovery a little more easier. Next week on 28th of January, we would be meeting for monitoring the server performance metrics, where we would discuss deep about the availability of the devices, the server and virtual performance metrics, and how do we create a custom WMI monitors, scripting methods, event logs, and a couple of information as well. So now, as I've told earlier, we will discuss about a couple of questions. Let's talk about the latest questions which we've discussed. We have got a team of panelists, and then we will discuss with the help of the panelists with the interesting questions which we have seen so far in the webinar. So here I introduce here it's time for questions, and I introduce panelist Ranganath Krishna, who is with OpManager, and he would be discussing the questions with you right now.
Hello everyone, this is Renga from the OpManager team, and I believe Shaz would have given you an overview of the discovery module. So we did receive a few questions when the training was in progress, and it's time that we discuss those questions. And the first one would be a very common question which everyone would ask, which would be, I am an evaluator and I need help in choosing the right edition you have. So to this, OpManager has three different editions, the standard, professional, and enterprise. And the professional edition seems to be the most common edition which everyone prefers, as the professional edition has all the features which OpManager offers. And the standard edition is for limited users, wherein if you do not need the full features and if you just need a limited feature, then you can go ahead with the standard. And in case if you have a distributed architecture wherein you have three remote sites and you need to manage all the three remote sites from a fourth site, and you need to have a centralized kind of view, then we would prefer you to go for the enterprise edition. So moving to the next question. Can I log into the router or switch terminal from OpManager? Yes, you can do it. In case if you have the CLI or the SSH credential configured for the appropriate device on OpManager, yes, you can directly log into the terminal from the OpManager UI itself. Let me show you that. So from the inventory, you can choose the appropriate device which you would like to log in. Let me choose a router. And you have the terminal option displayed on the summary page of the appropriate device. So all you need to do is click it, and it will directly connect you to the terminal, and you just need to enter the password. So let's get back to the questions. After adding devices, will there be any impact if I remove the discovery profile? So once the devices is added onto OpManager, and if you're just removing the discovery profile alone, there will not be any impact for the devices which are already added. It's just removing of the appropriate profile alone. So let us move to the next one. How many devices will be discovered via auto discovery? A classic question. So first, we would be checking the reachability of the devices in the particular subnets, and in case if the device responds to the ping for 100, if the ping gives a 100% response, then we add the devices onto OpManager via Nmap, and then we use AD authentication, and we add all the servers alone which are present in the AD. In case if the server are reachable. Next, let's move to the next question. Is there a limit on the license for the interface discovery, and which protocol or credential is used for interface discovery? So when it comes to license for interfaces, we do not have any limit. And for the interface discovery, we use SNMP protocol. Next, let's move to the next one. Is there a way to manage a device through DNS name instead of IP, since we have dynamically changing environment? Yes, we have an option. So since you have specifically mentioned that you have a dynamically changing environment, so it's important that you need to monitor the devices. So let me take you to the UI and let me show you on how to change that. So from the OpManager UI, you can navigate to settings, choose monitor settings, which will be available under the monitoring. And here under general, we have an option called poll using IP address and DNS. So since this is a dynamically changing environment, I mean IP dynamically changes, so you can choose DNS and you can choose save, which should be applicable for all the devices which are already added onto OpManager. So let's come back to the questions. Can we add a device using SNMP trap? Yes, it is possible. So in case if you have a device on the on a remote location and if you do not know the IP address or the host name of appropriate device, you can just send a trap to OpManager from the appropriate device, and using SNMP trap, we can add the device on OpManager. However, you need to enable this option from the OpManager console. Let me take you to the UI and let me show you where you can enable this one. Again, from the settings, please choose Discovery and use the option Discovery Settings, where we have an option to discover devices via trap. All you need to do is enable it and choose Save, and that would bring in this feature. Let's move to the next one. Does OpManager captures history on when the devices were added, deleted, etc.? Yes. We have an audit reports on OpManager wherein the devices which are added and deleted would be captured along with the time frame. Let me take you to the UI and let me show you that. So for example, let me go ahead and delete one of the devices which I have already added. So for example, let me go ahead and delete this device. Now, in order to check when the device is deleted, you can navigate to Reports, OpManager, System Reports, choose the audit report which should be there at the end. And here you can see the entry that the device which was just deleted is there, and it's showing us the device is deleted successfully. This would be the same case when you go ahead and add the device onto the OpManager UI as well. So let's come back to the questions. Okay, I believe we have reached to the end of the questions. So in case if you need to have more videos of OpManager, yes, you can visit our YouTube channel, which should be youtube.com/OpManagerTech videos. And in case if you need any help on various modules on OpManager, you can visit our help website, which would be help.opmanager.com. We also have our forums wherein we interact with our customers and partners. So you can visit our forum, which would be forums.manageengine.com/opmanager. And in case if you would like to reach the OpManager support for any queries or assistance, you can either drop us an email to opmanager-support@manageengine.com, or you can reach us through our toll-free numbers, which is displayed on the screen. Also, in case if you would like to get certified as an OpManager professional, where you can use the certification and you can get to know the full-fledged features as well as you can become a master of the product. Yes, we do offer certifications. You can visit the link, which would be manageengine.com/training/certification-register. You can go ahead, pick the certification, and you can take up the test and you can get certified as an OpManager professional. Okay, thank you. We have reached to the end of today's session. Hope this would be useful for you. We would get back to you in the next session of the OpManager training series, which will be held next week. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your participation, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.